Yeah. So, see you guys.
Okay, take it easy.
Did you have a
I'm Chris Stegman. This is our second week here at Brian Baird's office in Olympia. We're here to express our outrage and deep disappointment with his recent change to supporting Bush's surge and Bush's policies in Iraq. And we're here to say that we don't support that, and we think Brian Baird needs to be held accountable for his positions. And last week we had people here speaking out. We'll continue to speak out this week, and we'll be back again next Friday to continue. The Vote for War funding is coming up at the end of this month or early October, so we'll probably be here through that date. And we're looking for a candidate to run against Brian Baird in the hopes that we can find somebody to challenge him on not only his position on the war, but on other issues like universal health care, electoral reform, etc. Things that he kind of steps back and doesn't really take a stand on, where he supports private insurance instead of a public insurance system, those kind of issues. So I'll just start it out by reading a letter to the editor that was in today's Olympian. It's from a friend of mine. His name's Greg Starling. The title is "United States Created the Bloodbath." U.S. Representative Brian Baird asks, "What happens to you and me morally if we withdraw from Iraq and there is wholesale slaughter?" This is either historical naivete or a cynical Democrat's attempt to put a new spin on Bush's war in Iraq. Bipartisan U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East has visited a 60-year bloodbath on the people of the region for the sole purpose of controlling the oil above which they try to live. The CIA has overthrown democratically elected leaders and installed megalomaniacs like Saddam Hussein and the Shah of Iran. The U.S. government looked the other way when Saddam gassed the Kurds and murdered hundreds of thousands so the oil profits could keep flowing. Baird is afraid of a Shiite theocracy that forces progressive, independent women into burqas. This was his quote in the Olympian about a week and a half ago. Forgetting that Democratic and Republican administrations alike have showered modern weapons and political cover on a dictatorship in Saudi Arabia with a Sunni theocracy that's been doing exactly that for the last 100 years. As most of the world recognizes, there is no viable Iraqi government for U.S. troops to hand off to, even if some kind of illusory order was ever established by the too few troops available. I would rephrase Baird's moral question. How can we ask our troops to continue to give their lives and our grandchildren to shoulder the heavy financial, environmental, and social burden so that our corporations can continue to control the oil? The 60-year bloodbath can only stop if we leave. That was by Greg Starling in today's Olympian, letter to the editor.
My name is Harry Levine. I live here in Thurston County for 23 years. And I want to say to Representative Brian Baird that we want to put the representative back in your name. Not just have it be Brian Baird. You represent us. We, the people, you work for us. And it is very clear that we desire for the U.S. to get out of Iraq. Now, you started there, and you've changed, and you're claiming that you're listening to the same people who have brought us lie after deception after lie. So, maybe we're right, and they're not. We have been so far, every step along the way. We've exposed every lie, every deception, so why don't you represent us and get us out of Iraq?
My name's Larry Mosqueda. I work at Evergreen State College. And one of the points that I made last week is that we've talked to Baird before, individually in the office. He knows that he's actually lying. He knows that he's wrong. I mean, there are some people who are saying that Baird is maybe misinformed, maybe Baird is courageous because he's taken an unpopular position. But he knows. He knows what he's doing is wrong. And I think he needs to be called out on that. And so we need to run somebody against him, but we need to do more than that. As I mentioned last week, we need to make his life hell. because he's making the life of the people in Iraq hell. In fact, he's making the life of the American soldiers hell. If you take a look at that sign, it's 3,777. It's too many. I had that sign there last week. It said 3,750. It's too many. In the last week, 27 people, Americans, have died in Iraq. 27 Americans have died in Iraq. In the last week, 4,000 Iraqis died. Today there was an article in the Olympia, a small article in Olympia, pointed out that 1.2 million Iraqis have died since the war started. The current phase of the war has started. That's 12,000 people a month. That's 3,000 people who have died in the last week, Iraqis who have died. And Baird knows that it's a lie, and it's about lies. And he also knows, because he's made the point that if we believe there might be some disasters, there might be some massacres, etc. To some degree that's true. The first few months after we leave, there might actually be a spike in violence. But then it'll calm down. That's going to happen whether we leave today. It's going to happen whether we leave in 12 months and over 12 years. So the longer we stay, the more murder there's going to be. We need to have people actually who are intelligent, Europeans, Asians, Africans who are working on this, not people like Bush and Baird. And one of the other points that Baird makes is we have strategic interests in the area. Strategic interests in the area. And every time you hear about strategic interests in the area in the Middle East, it's about the oil. It's about the oil. That's their strategic interest. In fact, Baird is right. If we want to remain an imperialist nation, we need the oil. If we want to remain an empire, we need the oil. If we're not going to change our way of living with cars, we need the oil. If we're not going to have laws like they have in Europe, where the average car has to have 44 miles per gallon, we need the oil. We need the oil to keep killing people. That's why we need the oil. If we change actually just the way the Europeans live, the Western Europeans, forget anything else about any other type of system, we wouldn't have to import one drop of oil from OPEC. Not one drop of oil from OPEC. If we change the way we change our energy, we wouldn't have to do anything about OPEC. In fact, we could be energy independent within a decade, and Baird knows that. If we change the system, we could be energy independent within a decade, and Baird knows that. If we change the system, and not the whole system, but the system we have right now. Because Baird thinks we need the oil, we brought him some oil. We're going to leave oil here. And he can put it in his own car, he can give it away to the poor, he can give it to the military. I don't give a damn what he does with it. But he wants the oil, so we're going to give him the oil. And we're going to give him more oil. And I encourage other people to bring him oil. And I encourage everybody who thinks their legislator thinks we need the oil, to give them the oil. In fact, send it to them in the mail, postage due. Put a 34-cent stamp on it with their address and they'll get it. And we're not going to wait till November of 2008. And we're not going to wait till 2010. The war's going to keep going on and on until we actually lose it publicly. We've already lost the war. We need to lose it publicly. So if Baird wants to appropriate more money, he should appropriate a flat roof for the embassy in Baghdad. So next time we leave, like we left in Vietnam, there's room for more than one helicopter.